has been a weakness to Seither in the past, so not a shock there to see Deeble get the victory in the end. But that is aside, that's another series, and this one is the one we're casting right now in the bottom left from Opus V. This is Azure.
And over on the other side of the map, you do have the recent champion of ANZ Champs. He's on a pretty nice little run of form. Let's see if he can get himself into the round of 4. It is the Blue Terran from Mindfreak, Seither.
So, if you are the champion of ANZ Champs, are you the ANZ Champs champ? What's the... It's an unfortunate name.
The champ of champs.
The champ of champs.
Everyone now refers to you as champ, passive-aggressively.
Yeah. There was actually a player in the StarCraft 2 scene whose name, you might know him, his name's Chan. He's a Latin American Zerg player.
Yeah.
And I always said to him, when you win a tournament, you just put a P at the end.
How's that going for him?
He's still Chan. Put it that way. He is, maybe he's won some smaller tournaments, but as far as like the EBT weeklies are concerned, and the Latin American qualifiers and that sort of thing, he is often beaten down by unfortunately, Special shows up, and Special's insane. He's incredibly hard to beat in those tournaments. So he's not
number Juan, dude.
Number Juan. That's right. That's right. Exactly. It takes one to know one.
Oh, it does. It does. He's always the man in GSL that I'm like, yes, a foreigner. And then he gets like, well, round of 16, round of 8, definitely nothing to scoff at. But usually gets bonked.
Yeah, it does tend to happen. There's a few scary players over there on the GSL stage. In fact, I think that stage is pumping right now. But of course, everyone's got multiple tabs and internet that's good enough to watch multiple streams. So do not be missing your DreamHack Masters, Oceanic Rest of Asia matches, and of course Taiwan later as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I almost don't want to watch it because I think it is a PVC. But, a bit PVC'd out after the events unfolded over the last couple of nights. Usually I would skip a TVT, but today I will really take a TVT. I'm hyped for this TVT.
I'm hyped as well, man. I actually quite like TVT. It's my favorite mirror matchup in the game. I feel like, especially when it gets really positional, it could be incredibly impressive to see a really high-level TVT, which I'm kind of expecting out of the series. So at the moment, both their builds incredibly normal. The small difference is that Seither's actually getting his command center up in the main base. It's a very conservatively placed command center as well. I guess where he's put his factory, he actually doesn't have space to put the command center next to the edge of the main, where you would normally put it, so you don't have as many seconds to fly over there to take it, which is a little unfortunate. But the advantage for Azure is that he's expanding right on location, and there's not really anything coming out of Seither to pressure that or punish that. So Azure has a little bit of an edge in that regard, but you can see with the Widow Mine here, Seither could potentially get a catch on the early game army of Azure if he overextends with the Widow Mine.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a difference maker, similar to that Disruptor. One wrong move and you can be in a world of hurt there. Also worth mentioning as well, always triggers me that Azure is red. So I've got to get that head straight in my head.
I didn't even realize that until you mentioned it. I actually mentioned it during the ANZ Champs, where Azure was red, and I'm like, can we pause the game and get the admin on the line here, because it's really unacceptable.
The worst one was Azure being red and Crimson being blue when they're in the same game.
Oh my god, yeah, it's the worst. Yeah, Crimson being blue is another travesty where we really got to get the admins slam their heads together, ask them what they're doing.
Alrighty, well, some movement out on the map. Unfortunate case of timing. Seither loads up his dropship. Oh, the Cyclone, well positioned. Actually going to get the lock on here, Maynard.
That is so lucky. Azure needs to go buy a lottery ticket right now. What an insane catch. And with this Cyclone, he can actually beat this army too. So Seither needs to disengage. Even lining up the units a little bit there for that Hellion. Not quite going to get the catch. He should be able to outpace the Hellion with his own Hellion, obviously, and with the Cyclone coming down to intercept, now Seither has the upper hand. Oh no, Azure overextending now, he's stuck. Oh man, the Hunter has become the hunted. And Seither actually turns things around.
That's a great catch from Seither. And in the meanwhile, look at Azure, man. He's pumping his CVs. I don't know how he's ended up 7 workers ahead, but he's feeling good about how this one's going. Both players, it's just automatic. It's like autopilot. I say both teams. Too much tactical FPS casting.
It's all right, mate.
Both
You're doing
players,
People that can cast multiple titles to me are like multilingual people. I'm always insanely impressed. I just sit there dumbfounded that someone can speak a language other than English. I'm like, wow, you can speak like 3 or 4 languages. A lot of my European friends like that, and I'm the same with you. I'm just like, wow, this guy can cast high-level CS, Valorant, and also StarCraft. Teach me your ways, senpai.
I mean, in reality, it's like, you know, it's like the friend who you think he speaks French, but he just says bonjour sometimes.
Yeah, and when he goes to a bakery, he says croissant instead of croissant. And it's like, yeah, you're not impressing anyone, mate.
Yeah, that's me. End of the day, though, you get a couple of CCs being added by both of these players. Still keeping the builds pretty normal. Work account starting to average out a little bit more, getting some racks added in, getting a couple of Ravens mixed in the equation. The Raven usage from Seither was super on point in ANZ Champs. There was so many games where the man just had his auto turrets in the right place at the right time, or went for a little bit of a Raven flyby and put himself in an excellent position. Obviously want to be stacking up that energy though for the anti-armors and the disables on the tanks and whatnot. So would be surprised if you saw them used as a harassment tool, but never say never.
Yeah, well, that's the power of the Raven, is not only they a harassment unit, but they make or break engagements, especially in this matchup, where you can lock down the tanks or take them out of the fight. Or, like you mentioned, drop those auto turrets, which, take a fair bit of a beating. They actually have a lot more hit points than you think, and they can really make an engagement go your way, like really snowball as well. Like in TVT with the DPS of the Marines, you start winning a fight, and then you win it super hard when you just snowball over your army because the Marines just DPS the other army to bits, and then the Raven, same deal. Like you just win fights super hard in TVT or lose fights super hard. So you got to be very, very careful, as it's often balanced on a razor's edge. Big air advantage for Azure at the moment, which is a problem for Seither. Very hard to push with tanks when you see that many Vikings and these Ravens together. That's actually something that Seither can't really hope to deal with. Some lockdowns coming in from Azure. A lovely flank with the Ravens casting their spells on the tanks, dropping those auto turrets, and Seither gets wiped off of this side of the map. An insane catch.
That was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Great use. All of those disables just get absolutely money use out. And then, meanwhile, I think Seither was just chucking most of his energy into the auto turrets, just trying to clean up a little bit. And that's ended up in about a 20 army supply advantage for Azure. And he's well aware of the position that he's in. He's going to start to get active out on the map. A lot of that supply in the Vikings. He's definitely going to be keeping that air superiority for the time being. Just be able to pick off some of those Vikings and then land in. And straight away, Seither has to land his Viking. There's no way that's going to be an air unit anytime soon. And actually, it's just going to forfeit that third location.
Oh man, that incredible trade for Azure on his side of the map has really opened up the opportunity for this counterattack. He is just wrestling this air advantage away from Seither, one-shotting these Vikings, forcing the lift up on the third base. And now he can actually try and get something done in the natural, I reckon. There's only a couple tanks here. I feel like if Azure had a couple more tanks, this is a push that you can make happen. You don't even need that many Marines. If you've got tanks with this many air units, you can start to really sort of bring down the pressure on your opponent. Just like clamp down on the third, on the natural, and just keep pushing them further and further back. See, this tank is now taken out of commission. The vision advantage from the air here, giving that tank extra range. And that's a free tank for Azure after taking down a couple free Vikings and forcing the lift off on a third. Meanwhile, Azure, fully saturated third base. He is sitting pretty right now. Massive advantage for Craig.
See that? Choosing to move his third CC up towards the top left. Needs to try to find himself that additional source of income that Azure has access to. The Marines picking off a couple of those Vikings. That will definitely help out. In the meanwhile, Azure hasn't been pumping the Vikings though as much. Has been chucking a couple of libs in there. Maybe trying to find himself a little bit of harassment on towards the back lines. The Vikings pulling the medevacs back once again, who are full of Marines. Need to be careful not to lose those, because that would be even more of a supply advantage snowball in the favor of Azure, who seems like he's moving out with the force on the left side as well. Maybe try to catch Seither off guard towards the top side.
I think Azure saw the medevacs with his army there, might have scanned and saw them break off from the pack and is trying to intercept them now with his Marines and his Viking. But Seither actually unloaded and thread the needle there through the middle of the map and is going to drop at a different angle. So Azure potentially going to get caught out of position here for this 15 Marine drop.
See how much damage it does end up going to have. At the end of the day, I mean, Seither still sitting like 30 minus army supply. The push straight in from the man as he does recognize that Azure doesn't really have all of his eggs in the same basket. It's just a small force over towards the old third base location. And as soon as he takes that fight over towards that right side, he's going to drop in towards the main. But Azure's so many Marines already in position. Seither needs to be careful.
I'm wondering why Azure has 30 Marines in his main base, but I guess he kind of foresaw that this was going to happen. Meanwhile, Seither's taking damage as well. Natural still not cleaned up. Seither is going to clean up the drop at the natural, but both players are bleeding SCVs. In the end, when the dust settles, Seither is up a handful right now. And are there any other advantages? I feel like not really. Seither is up in workers, but I would definitely rather be the guy that's almost double the army supply with 2-2 on the way. That just means that Azure's had a bit more of money for a little bit longer than Seither, even though he took a bit more SCV damage just then. He still bought himself an advantage, and he can afford to take that hit and still maintain a bit of a lead here.
I mean, it's only really going to matter if he can stay alive for long enough to eke out that economic advantage, and that is a very scary army. A lot of Marines. The tanks starting to mobilize, starting to shift over towards that middle side. Seither maybe trying to force up an early siege and slow down this push because he needs some extra time here, or he's going to be in a rough position. He's actually just going to take the fight on this ledge here, Maynard.
Oh, a very dicey fight, but Azure did the math in his brain as he did because he's a great banker. He actually got to see those Marines, and he's like, I see the math. I've got it. Even with the later siege, he committed and came out on top in that engagement. The army supplies have actually evened out a little bit. But again, look at this maintaining of the air advantage. Now he's got a Liberator advantage. That's getting thrown into the mix. Unfortunately, a lot of Marines here from Seither are going to be able to handle at least the initial front line. But as the SCVs get pulled and get minced by those landed Vikings, it kind of feels like Seither's just moments from tapping here.
So many medevacs, but nothing to heal. The reinforcing Marines going to start to actually come over there and target fire down a few of the Vikings. Azure, he's already gotten a lot of damage done here. I mean, I'm not even sure he necessarily needs to end the game. He's got his 4th CC on the way towards that bottom center side. He's going to load up some more reinforcements as make his way over there, try to keep the pressure on because he realizes he's in a pretty strong position now.
I'm still reeling after seeing the Viking being lifted up into medevac and dropped again. I'm like, Azure's mum must be watching because he's really trying super hard right now. He's actually won this game. Azure's just got way too big an advantage, and I don't see how Seither holds on to this base or stops this advance of Azure. Azure can take top left for free, and if he takes the third base, it's all over for Seither because this is where he's rallying everything.
Got that 2-2 advantage just finishing up as well. The Marines going in there. They're going to get so much damage done fighting against those blue Marines. The 4 tanks in the back line. All of the medevacs just going down time after time, just getting sieged by the Vikings. And 5 Marines aren't going to be enough to do it here, Maynard. Wow, what a game from Azure. What a statement.
Yeah, just showing straight away in this series is like, this is going to be like the last one where you 2-0'd me. I'm either going to win it or I'm at least going to put up a much bigger fight. And Azure is absolutely doing that in game 1, asserting dominance over Seither on that map there. Really impressive game from Azure. And it really kind of goes to show how a lot of the mirror matchups in StarCraft are really balanced on a razor's edge. At this moment was where Azure took the lead of the game and he never let it go.
Yeah, getting a little bit worried about Seither. Not sure if it's the time to just yet, but 1 game away from being eliminated. He's already had a bit of a rougher series against T-Ball. And that first game, I mean, that was all up Azure. The whole game, everything just went well for the man. He consistently found himself, 30, 40 army supply ahead and just took so many of these great engagements.
Yeah. And really, like a lot of the time in StarCraft, it's like, it's not just about making the right decisions. It's also about making less mistakes than your opponent. And that definitely happened in this game, where Seither made quite a few mistakes, and Azure made less mistakes. And because they are such a, both really high-level players, with maybe Seither being the slightly more, I guess, higher pedigree player, having just historically won a lot more. And a lot of people would say that Seither is the stronger player here. It just goes to show that you aren't going to get away with mistakes, or at least that many mistakes, against someone as good as Azure. It's absolutely not going to happen.
Yeah, he's made so many improvements, and like mechanically and in terms of the macro, he's just so oppressive. Like if he gets one edge, there's some other players like in the Oceanic region where they might get an edge and they might not have the fundamentals and the macro behind it to be able to take full advantage. Azure is definitely not one of them. Like he's so solid at staying on top of his macro and just reinforcing and being able to snowball and get all of those scary Terran armies to just keep swinging at you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm actually looking forward super hard here to game number 2, which is going to be coming up shortly after the break to see if Seither can tie it up against Azure. Don't go away. We'll see you then. G'day, StarCraft fans. Welcome back. We're in the midst of our series here to finish off the Oceanic Rest of Asia group stages. I was just missing a word, accidentally a worded there. But yes, we have one more series here in the group stages before we get to the bracket stage tomorrow. And we currently have in our best of 3 TVT between Azure and Seither. Azure, the underdog, up 1-0 here against Seither, potentially repeating their ANZ champs result, question mark?
Yeah, looking really, really good doing it. Yeah, you absolutely love to see it. And I almost wouldn't mind that storyline. None of us predicted it. Everyone predicted Seither. You'd have to do it looking at the head-to-head, looking at the recent results. But you cannot go past Azure's form at the moment. And it would almost be kind of heartbreaking to see a man who is in such great form, who has been putting in so much work, not get that top 4 result in AZ Champs, not get that advancement in towards the bracket stage of DreamHack, because it's really, at the end of the day, you look at Liquipedias, you look at someone's result and someone's history, and it doesn't tell you just how strong that player was at the time. So I almost feel like it would be deserved to see Azure actually complete this upset here and go have a crack into the bracket, because he's been putting in work lately.
He's been putting in a ton of work, and it would be, whoever gets through here, it's well deserved, and a top 4 for Azure, that'd be awesome. It'd be great to see him in that top 4 again and see how he does with a little bit more pressure and also with a bit of a longer series, because I feel like a lot of the Azure games we've seen have been best of 3s, and we haven't really seen him play a best of 5 or even potentially a best of 7 against someone in the the grand final or something like that, like an Azure grand final. Oh god, I'd be so happy just to cast that, let alone imagine how he feels if he can make it that far. That'd be a career best for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if he potentially has a crack at some players that aren't necessarily Protoss, but the way that the bracket's shaping up at the moment, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. Either way, though, getting ready to get into the middle of this series. Second map here on 2000 Atmospheres. Here is the Blue Terran. It is Mindfreak's Seither.
And in the top right, currently up in the series from Opus V, this is Azure. Tragically, in the red color.
3. Big re in the chat.
Yeah, big re's, F's in the chat. The problem is that Azure is obviously a blue color, but Seither also is on Mindfreak, which the team is blue. So it really is a catch-22 here.
No one can win. Just make them both blue. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, we're good enough at commentating that we'd be able to handle it. I'm sure the viewers could handle it too. I mean, StarCraft fans are apparently the smartest esport fans in the whole world, so...
I think in one of the first games of ANZ Champs after a big hiatus from casting StarCraft, I did get some Zergs of different colors mixed up, and I felt like I wanted to cry. Just saying that one player had won the game after they clearly just lost. I was like, nah, I'm gonna hang it up here. I'm done.
Back in the day before the red-blue rule, when players could pick whatever color they wanted, in the Southeast Asian region, you may have known this back in the day, like I'm talking Wings of Liberty, everyone was Zerg in our region. And that's all that Zeph and I would cast. And we would have round of 8, double elims, nothing but Zergs. 8 Zergs, double elim, all 8 are players of the Zergs, and they all would pick either purple or pink. Try and look at a minimap with creep spread and figure out what the hell's going on ever. In that situation.
That's how you became such a good commentator, Maynard. You're forged in the fires of whatever the hell that is. That sounds like a nightmare.
These guys are living a nightmare right now. They're dancing to something.
That's kind of hurting my eyes. I'm not gonna lie.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I was just trying to think of what song that could be, but the BPM's a little bit too high for anything that I would listen to.
I think I was kind of thinking like Heads Will Roll. Yeah, that's what was going off in my head.
I was thinking Let the Bodies Hit the Floor by Dragon Ball.
There you go. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. The dreadlocks might have been a giveaway in that regard.
The problem is it's on 2000 Atmospheres and the bodies literally can't hit the floor. They float to the ceiling. So
it's tragic.
And it is tragic. Yeah. Of all the tragedies that could be happening today. So at the moment, both players extremely similar build orders. The small differences is that we do have Azure continuing to reactor out Reapers, and Seither's already on Marine production there, so saving a little bit more gas and able to get the faster tank as a result. Other than that, though, still 1-1-1, and still fast expand builds for both players.
All right, what can Azure get done with all this massive influx of the Reapers and the Hellions here, Maynard? If he rolls in at the right angle on the right timing, that could be difficult for Seither, right?
It could be difficult indeed. We will just make sure, as we keep our eyes on the prize here, what Azure can get done with this army. Now, it's a very normal early game army for Azure, and the tank is a little bit further back, so it's not going to be able to help out in the natural just yet, but it is still a tank, and Azure is going to bleed out one Reaper here as it engages up that ramp. Seither with a fast medevac here. Actually looks like that tank is meant to be loaded up and sent across the map pretty quickly. You know, you don't get a medevac this quick just to heal up your Reapers. That's for going across the map. Oh, nice catch from Azure. Getting those mules. Well done.
Yeah, that's really going to slow things down. 100 energy just thrown in the bin there. I mean, Azure knows he's a banking consultant. That's compound interest right there. You know, those mules this early on, then you build some more barracks, you build some more SCVs. That's just going to snowball your economy. So he just consulted the hell out of that.
Yeah, consult this, he says as he comes in with his early game army.
Okay. If that's your catchphrase in life, I think you might need to be rethinking a few things.
It's 2021 and the age of the jacked, baby oiled up action movie star is gone. I think bankers are now the new action hero star, and I think
all I think of when you say that is that I don't know what film it's from, but the guy who's like, I'm in, when he's just in his underwear, like jacked, oiled up, just typing on a keyboard.
I don't know what movie that is either, but almost every day, the reason I'm laughing so hard is that on my stream, anytime I like get in behind another team in a multiplayer game, or whenever I drop into someone's base, or whenever I like sneak behind another enemy, I'm just like, I'm in. It's the first thing I say. I love it. Also, screaming hack the planet is another thing I like to do as well. Just the whole 90s hacker vibe was a good moment for cinema for me.
Oh boy, I think I need to tune into your stream more often. It sounds like a good time.
If you say so. These Reapers getting caught and quartered there, and the Marines in position.
It does delay the command center for 2 seconds. So that's more consulting going on. He's trying to slow down the economy. Not sure it was worth it at the cost of the Reapers, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Seither going to load himself up a medevac full of men with guns and see if he can get some shooting.
8 men with guns is actually very, very scary. It's the direct counter to SCVs, actually. So if they get into that mineral line, it's obviously going to be a bit of a bloodbath. Speaking of which, caught on that Reaper. Nice little scuffle there from Azure, getting the KD8 grenade micro.
Yeah. Love to see it. Cyclone and a couple of Marines, though, in position towards the backside of the base. If they do chill there, then... that is...
just outside the scan.
That might be it right there. Seither, I think he's going to go through with this.
Oh, he'll wish he didn't. Azure is super in position. He's got the boost ready, of course, so he can disengage as long as he's paying attention. And, I mean, Seither is good enough at the video game that I doubt he'll do a Maynard maneuver, which is when you send your medevac in without looking at it. Should always look at it.
That takes time, though, and concentration. That sounds hard.
It is. And oh my god, he boosts straight in, and that's so unfortunate for Azure because he literally had the defenses right there that would have shut this down super hard. Goes for the fast SCV pull at least, so he hasn't lost any workers just yet. This is opening up the natural a little bit, though. Seither, you can see encroaching from the third base.
All of those Marines going to be committed actually in towards the main, but that's where you see all of these auto turrets, a couple of landed Vikings, all of the tanks just caught out in the open. 4 tanks going down from Azure. This is a nightmare.
And that was a lovely 1-2 punch from Seither, just make him look into the main base. And with those tanks exposed, the Ravens soloed them, and now the rest of his army's coming in. A lot of defenses from Azure, and Seither, getting a little weird and cavalier there with the Ravens. He loses them there to the air army. And the tanks go down as well, so that looked really good for Seither on the attack, and getting those tanks was obviously fantastic. But in the end, Azure's air army advantage and also his defensive tanks and Cyclone come on in and switch things up again, taking the better trade, and in the end, still ahead in supply and ahead in this game.
Dude, Azure's just making more units faster. I don't know what it is.
It's a skill I wish I had. Just being able to make stuff faster than other people.
Yeah, there you go. Might need to get some, might need to hire him, get some consulting going on.
He needs to consult my TVTs. Don't worry about banking. I mean, there's probably more money in banking than in making a moderately popular streamer and a moderately popular esport better at a video game. But
everything in moderation, Maynard. Everything in moderation. I'll tell you who has more money though. This guy called Seither. He's got that third base fully saturated here. Only now is this all starting to transfer down onto his own third and get that rolling. Gas going to be a little bit quicker there for Seither. And as far as the upgrades go, I mean, they're evening up now, but with the armory finishing up, I think Azure, again, similar to that last game, might be potentially getting a little bit on top of the upgrades, even if it's only by, 10, 20 seconds.
Yeah, the extra few seconds do matter. You know, StarCraft is a game of seconds and sometimes milliseconds, so it's extremely important to play fast. And sometimes it's better to make a decision rather than make the correct decision. You know what I mean? Like take your extra time, make the correct decision, but just being more decisive and getting out there and being active is often more important. I really like what Seither's done with his you know, cheaper units here, fanning out his Marines on every single attack path. Lots of map control right now for Seither. Azure though, I'm liking the look of his army. So there's a little bit of an advantage here and there for both players at the moment.
He's just not building medevacs, dude. Azure is just pretending medevacs don't exist. Seither pumping nothing but medevacs. Azure only Vikings. That's been the main difference. And I mean, so far, you can't fault the man. It has been working for him. This air superiority for Azure has been doing him wonders.
Well, I think the problem with medevacs is, you know, they don't shoot air units, whereas the Vikings do. And Azure has identified that advantage. See, the medevacs aren't going to win this fight.
They can't fight back.
They can't. Maybe next patch. Maybe next patch. Never know.
Yeah, there's one of those coming up, potentially. I don't know. Maybe something to do with Void Rays getting a buff. Who knows?
Well, we've got the push out here from Azure. Once again, not many medevacs, so the army, you know, whenever he stims the army, that's hit points he's not getting back. So that is something to take into account, but the air army is so powerful, tank count quite large, and also tons of Marines. This army looks really devastating. Is there anything at home, though, for this drop? It looks like Azure is going to be hitting Seither right as his medevac hits that natural. He's got turrets.
Seither again, sieging up in the center. Wants to delay that medevac. It almost goes down, but almost being the key word. Just two Marines getting dropped over in the meanwhile. It is a full frontal attack here. The Vikings just so dominant here for Azure, but speaking of the ground army, it's all Seither's way. The man has done an excellent job taking that engagement.
Seither's definitely done a very good job there with that engagement. Weirdly enough, I hit the mute button on my microphone, and then I hit the unmute button, and it just didn't move the slider up. So I'm a professional streamer, guys. Don't worry about it. 8 SCVs have gone down, and Seither taking the supply lead here. The first time I feel like he's had a pretty convincing advantage at this point in the game is he starts to shark around here. Azure is still looking for medevac drops, really doesn't want to get dropped again, doesn't want to take another hit to his economy.
Another CC in the production for Azure. But that 4th base economy for Seither looking pretty flash right now. You know, slight SCV advantage. I'd imagine he's getting reaping the rewards of that saturation down there. And he's even getting himself another CC over on the left side, just keeping his options open at the moment for Seither. I mean, he won that ground engagement. It's kind of feeling like a case of bigger, faster, stronger, at least for the time being. He's going to start to slowly get ahead. I would imagine he's adding himself more racks, and if he's able to stay alive for a couple more minutes, then I'd imagine he's going to be putting himself in a pretty excellent position.
So Seither's got a bigger economy than Belgium right now. It's actually got a lovely bank. I'm not sure why it's so massive. It's definitely a bit of a macro snafu. He's not maxed out. Having nearly 2k in the bank here. My goodness.
Just deciding what he wants to build, mate.
Well, maybe Azure can consult on where he wants to put those funds, because you know, if in my layman opinion, he should consult those funds into a lot more barracks and get a lot more Marines out, because it feels like his bioforce is getting dwarfed by that of Azure at the moment.
Well, bioforce not going to be mattering too much unless they can get in range, and at the moment the tank's keeping them at arm's length. But again, Azure, oh my god, the Liberators as well as the Vikings. This is a recipe for success right now. He's getting close enough to siege this 3rd, and again the Libs getting sieged up, and the tanks just evaporate. Oh my god.
Yeah, and he couldn't even get that turret finish either as the SCV went down to the Liberator. It's just one of those things where you have the air advantage, then you can get the Liberators thrown into your composition, and then tanks become really a bigger liability unless you have Marines or Vikings of your own to protect them. A counterattack from Seither, but Azure is pre-sieged, and he's got that choke point covered. Read him like a book, and a lovely scan to confirm it as well. Oh, this base is in trouble, though.
Yeah, I mean, Azure's just going to run away, try to get out of dodge. In the meanwhile, again, using one of those ramps, using one of the chokes to keep himself alive. He can relocate the SCVs up towards the top middle side, but Seither just going straight in towards the main here, Maynard.
Yeah, and he's got tanks to support as well as Azure's Marines come up to that edge of the main base. The tanks are just shredding them to pieces. A lot of SCVs went down at that third base as well. Azure covered that ramp, but the third base was still an opening, and his reaction to that third base, or realizing that third base was the next target for Seither, maybe a little bit too slow, and Seither capitalized on that, shredding the army and shredding the SCVs there. Now it's a 71 worker to 38 worker advantage for Seither, who now has got a pretty insurmountable lead. Now, Azure does have a bigger army, and obviously he's not done yet. He is hitting back. He has killed this base, but it just feels like, Seither is starting to lock things down back at home, but Azure hasn't gotten him out of his main yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's on top of the production at the end of the day, taking out these Raxes at 11 Marines at a time for Seither, and Raxes are just dropping like crazy in the main over there of Azure, who effectively, I feel at this point, just has to leverage this air advantage to try to win himself the game, or he's out of luck here, Maynard.
Yeah, the Liberators got taken down by the Vikings, so even though the Vikings died there for Seither, they've fulfilled their purpose, and that is getting rid of the Libs. And as long as Seither can sit back with his concave of tanks and Marines, Azure is going to find it tough to make progress. Meanwhile, his main base getting torn apart from the inside. Seither coming in, fanning in with those Marines, realizing he's got way too much firepower to be denied, and Azure is going to have to tap here. Seither with a insurmountable advantage.
Yeah, he realized he was in a difficult position, and he's just found the perfect course of action to get himself out of a sticky situation. It's really excellent play. Just two great games of TVT to kick us off, and this series is spicy as hell. No doubt we are going to a third map decided to see who's going to move on to the bracket stage.
All right, not an impressive game from Seither in game one, but game two, that's when he really turned up the juice, and that was that's the Seither that we know and love, the championship winning Seither that we know and love, putting Azure through the ringer there. Again, though, it felt a very close match, like it actually could have gone Azure's way, and it could have been a 2-0, and I would have been shocked because Azure definitely had the lead more than once there in that particular game.
I mean, I thought that he had it in the bag. I thought it was end of the series. He was on top of that third base. He had the Vikings going. The Libs were just sniping the tanks. And then you just had that decision from Seither to go straight up the middle. Could have got caught by Azure on top of that high ground, but he's, keeping on top of scanning things, making sure that he's informing his decision-making. And then he just goes in towards the main and goes up towards that right-hand side of the map. And that's where he started to find some success and turn things around for himself.
Yeah, I see that air advantage really works for Azure in moments like this when you're trying to siege push and you're trying to cut through a siege line of Terran. But, we kind of missed a good chunk of the game there where that particular attack did not matter because this was happening. We're at the tail end of it, but Seither getting that engagement, I feel like, to the very left of the screen, the edge of the main base, when you get those tanks sieged up on the lip of that main and you can cover the ramp and the production of Terran because you generally wall that area off, you are just going to be sitting pretty. Like, he killed so many of Azure's units as Azure went up into the main base with the Marines. The tanks were just... And it took Azure maybe a second or two to realize how many Marines he was losing there. And as soon as Seither took his main base away from Azure, that's the production. That's cutting the head off the snake right there. And you could see that was, a checkmate maneuver. And part of the reason why TVT is so cool to watch as a viewer, definitely stressful to play as a player, but as a viewer, it's really, really fun to watch because it really is so positional and so strategical. And moves like that can, I just keep saying it checkmate because it feels like you're playing chess, but, real time and with guys with guns and tanks.
And tanks. and little zoomy guys who mine you some minerals and things like that. I can't remember who had it, but one of them had a 1-1 upgrade advantage as well. I think it might have been Seither, but I can't remember. So that was an interesting one. Both of them seem pretty on top of the upgrades in both games, going up to 2-2, but definitely a little bit of a differentiating factor if you're saying slightly on top of those upgrades. So we'll see if that does end up being something important. You're talking about a lot of different win conditions, going for the air advantage or going for that push straight on top of the production. Let's see who goes for what this time around. Of course, it's going to be an ace match of an epic TVT series so far. Winner of ANZ Champs. This man has got a great shot at doing well in this tournament as well, but he has to win this game to make it to the bracket stage first. It's the Blue Terran, Seither.
And in the top left here in the red, represented by Opus V, this is Azure. So this is one of those really exciting moments where, an epic esports moment right here, Pilly, where we've had so many series but we're in a deciders match, and we're on the deciders map of the deciders match. This one map decides who moves on and who's out for this season. Big
Dude,
moment here.
I can't even decide what I want for dinner most days. Oh my god. Azure, he's decided. He's consulting.
Yeah.
He's doing all the things.
This is... You need brass cojones to do strategies like this in a deciders map, but I love it. I love it. This is the kind of thing that maybe Seither's not thinking of. You know, he's going to come in for a scout, and honestly, it's kind of hard to realize that there's a second barracks out there, because right now this barracks timing looks pretty normal. He did get the block off on that depot, so if he went into the main mineral line and had a bit of a look, he might be able to pick up. He's like, oh, there's a second gas missing, rather. Where's your, where's your command center? Why aren't you having got an SCV down there on the low ground? That could be a bit of a tell.
See if Seither does prepare himself well for that. Have seen the man chuck himself up an additional bunker here and there when he does feel threatened. He definitely isn't usually one to cut corners, so we'll see if that does end up being the case. Azure pumping out those Reapers, getting frisky with it. Seither going to make his way out on the map, attack pathing. Not finding it yet, but he's having a little bit of a look around. Just checks that close proxy location, but nothing further.
Also, back at home, Azure was making a Marine right there to look like a regular Reaper expand, but then had to cancel it and get up the Reaper because, basically what he wanted to show Seither that something was producing out of that barracks. If he waited for that Reaper, the jig would have been up there. And I think Seither's already picking up what's happening here. He's going to have to go straight into Hellion and hold that high ground. His Reaper's on the edge, expecting danger. You can see he's not fighting for the low ground. He knows he has to fight for the main.
There's still the CC behind this from Azure, though, so... He's just trying to make Seither uncomfortable, but as long as Seither, he's sitting on this high ground, it's not like he's dropped that CC on the low ground, he's finishing up his Hellion. There's still a lot of Reapers coming out for Azure. Let's see if Seither can cancel that bunker.
Yeah, I mean, getting that would be fantastic, but now at the moment, Seither's going to have to really wrestle for that low ground. And this means that Azure, obviously, even though his command centers are, just a little bit faster than Seither's, it's not just the faster command center, it's going to be on location and mining. Oh, I kind of like this from Seither, though, breaking the Reapers off from the main base to try and punish that, knowing that Azure's going to be focused on the denial of his natural and not so much on the defense of his own.
Yeah, I mean, the two Hellions, they can keep everything at home safe, and with the bunker finishing up, I mean, I guess Seither's kind of out of luck in terms of moving out past that low ramp, so... This is pretty heads-up play from the man. Some great decision-making just to be able to go straight into the main. There's not a single thing here. One Marine is not going to cut it, and he's going to start pulling the SCVs here.
Yeah, the SCVs just fighting against Triple Reaper is not a situation you ever want, and Seither is finding so much damage. As you're getting punished a little bit for the strategy, his Reapers have to come all the way home, which means that bunkers are mostly empty, and he is going to get the cleanup at least, so these Reapers of Seither are going to go down, but losing those 5 SCVs kind of really sends things Seither's way a little bit there. Now, losing 5 SCVs at like the 10-minute mark, maybe not that bad, but losing 5 SCVs at the 4-minute mark definitely does sting.
Going to land that CC straight away. Lock on the bunker is going to take it out at some point. It might take a little while with the SCV lending a little bit of repair. But once that's all said and done, Seither going to continue on with his macro dance. Drops himself an additional CC. And Azure grabs his Reapers over here, and he's going to be rewarded with an additional SCV kill.
Yeah. It's cool to see that Azure is making lemonade with these lemons. He brought had to bring the Reapers back to clean up the attack from Seither, took some SCV damage, but those Reapers are back. The SCV's keeping a lot more hit points in that bunker than he normally would have, and he continues to be annoying here in the natural where Seither cannot transfer SCVs. The tank is here now, which means the strategy is done. Azure trying to get the salvage here, doesn't quite get it.
So, unfortunately, an extra 75 minerals won't be obtained. But I think after all said and done, Azure going to be reasonably happy with how that's gone. He did drop a couple of SCVs to the Reaper counter-attack. But since then, again, man's been on top of his macro. He's just gone ahead in terms of the work accounts. He's really moving along quite nicely. He's added himself his CC as well. And we end up in a pretty normal situation. Both of these players trying to get a little bit cheeky with the positioning of some of these units, but this time around Azure is the one who will get a little bit antsy with the Reapers and end up losing them.
Both players going up to the 3rd CC as well, with Seither's being finished a little bit faster. But it is going to be, as we see, Stim starting around the same time. Honestly, a pretty even playing field, all things considered, with maybe the slight edge going to Azure because he's got those extra workers. But, you know, we're not going to see too much action here. Maybe there's some harassment, but at the moment, both players are macroing up, getting their extra few production facilities down. Seither is harassing with the Raven, gets one SCV, denies some mining time. But for the most part, we are going to have both players getting up their next level of mid-game production facilities.
Yeah, both adding those energy bays, so upgrades a big focus for both of these lads.
Good target fire.
A similar situation to those previous maps. Obviously, here on Romanticide, though, I'd imagine you're going to see like that triangle formation of the three bases, and pretty nice auto turret.
Really nice auto turrets. I mean, the advantage that Azure had was that he had like 7 or so more workers. Well, that advantage has been taken away thanks to that Raven. One of them does go down. This Raven's still alive, but now with the Viking is going to have to just go back to the other side of the map. But dropping that auto turret, a couple more SCV kills, a few more SCV kills. That's very annoying. I feel like at this point, the Ravens could die, and it's okay. Like, losing Ravens normally in a TVT is devastatingly bad, but 13 SCV kills just for auto turrets? Absolutely, you take that trade.
Gorgeous. Really sort of differentiating himself through an extra 10 workers and a lot more map control. Feeling a lot more comfortable on his side of the map is Seither, so he's going to move his CC out to the third location a little bit earlier on. Azure does scan that, so well aware of the situation that he's in. Seither, a little bit supply blocked, but apart from that, he's feeling pretty good about the situation as he drops himself a couple of mules. Medevac moving out on the map. Just going to drop the one Marine over there, who is going to see, I mean, luckily it doesn't continue along that same pathing of the medevac, or definitely would have got caught. Both of these players have been pretty on top of trying to punish these drops.
Yeah, and you can cast your mind back to the fact that Azure started this with a proxy, and things have really stabilized and become quite normal since then. Neither player really having a huge lead after the fact. I see there's the first one to drop off or rather pick up a drop to the bottom side of the map to try and shift queue that for some harassment, but Azure, you know, these Marines just all out on their own have been indoctrinated for the greater good on both sides of the map, where they are just looking for these drops, looking for run-bys. Scan from Seither in the middle of the map as his Marine gets taken down, sees the army of Azure, moves out to the 4th base location, trying to engage him away from the high ground ramp. And once again, just like the last 2 games, Azure with the air advantage.
Yeah, trying to leverage the Vikings to get some work done. That +2 attack starting up quite a bit earlier for Seither, and the armor way ahead, so that man is definitely been on top of the upgrades at the moment.
Ooh, catching that drop without too much getting unloaded there is quite nice. But these 2 Marines in the natural did get a handful of SCVs. I feel like that was a better trade for Azure, though. Killed a lot more of Seither's resources than Seither got with the damage. And yeah, again, like the power of this air army is that you give those tanks that extra bit of vision because they can shoot further than they can see, which means that Seither needs to scan to have as much range as Azure does, and Azure doesn't need to scan at all. He's got this army ready, and a full energy Raven. Don't forget that as well, to be able to lock down tanks when push comes to shove. Yeah,
and again, he's chucking a couple of libs in the mix, so that's where he can start to break this tank line if he's able to find some success in that regard. Main thing for Seither is it's a big worker lead, and it's a pretty big upgrade lead from the man as well. He's looking pretty fantastic. He's getting his vehicle attack as well, all those tanks and whatnot, and he's staying active out on the map. A couple of these medevacs. He's found a couple of nice advantages with some good timings on those medevacs a few times here, so let's see if we can do it again.
Seither with a double drop to the north side, at least threatening the 3rd base, but disengages. Just kind of puffing up his feathers a little bit here, peacocking, trying to make Azure sweat a little bit. Again, you know, just to reiterate, this is a deciders match for a deciders match. Like, this map is deciding who is going to move on to the next phase of this tournament and who is going to have to try again next season. Big prize money difference between the guy that gets to the round of 4 and the guy gets knocked out in group stages.
Yeah, and it's a big thing about expectations. A lot of practice leading up to this moment. Azure, he's kind of fallen short of making it through to these DreamHack tournaments and qualifiers and whatnot a couple of times, just barely not making it out of those ANZ champs brackets a few times. So definitely in the form that he's in right now, he wants to try to capitalize and get some results.
Certainly does. Liberators being an advantage for Azure, but they're left on their lonesome. The Vikings not there to cover, and Seither coming in from multiple angles. Even though it's a little bit of a choke point, Tank's normally scary in the situation. Seither has the surround, and Azure gets wiped out of the middle of the map. A reinforcement from Azure through the middle of the map But that little scuffle there definitely going Seither's way, and he resets their air advantage by taking a lot of the air units down. The Liberators, everything getting taken out from the skies.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole +1/+1 upgrade advantage going for himself right now. He's even got that vehicle attack finishing up. So this is definitely not a situation that Azure wants to be forcing here, or he could be finding himself in a world of hurt.
Certainly. And Seither continuing to maintain the upgrade lead as well, as he's actually got both his energy base kicking in. +3 is not on the way, but +3 armor isn't, but +3 attack is. And see that Azure is a little bit lagging behind on that armor upgrade on his second engineering base. So it kind of seems like Seither's going to have an upgrade advantage at least for a hot minute here. And is that a second or maybe third factory coming down for Azure? He's trying to get his tank production looking a little bit better. Seither's had 2 tank production for quite a while, which is a big deal in TVT. The tank is the king of the ground army. And yeah, so that's a third factory coming up, or rather the second factory just finishing for Azure. So Seither has been out tank producing him for a minute.
Oh, the stim straight in towards this tank line here, doing a pretty decent job of cleaning it up. And actually Azure, he trades out quite a few Marines for a few tanks. It's not quite good enough for him to feel comfortable to push the issue any further. And Seither going to pull some more tanks from the north side to shore up his defenses a bit more.
And Azure still encroaching on Seither's territory here, trying to get in range of that planetary. That line of tanks, though, almost Brood War-esque line like that, as Seither just tries to take a part of the map away from his opponent. Trying to get his Vikings into a position to maybe pick off the medevac, but Azure positions them safely here behind the Marines. Going to try and snap a Viking. Does get the one there. Good catch, and these Marines will just get healed up.
Both players getting that 4th base online safely. This is the maneuver from Azure, trying to get straight on top of the production, something that worked very well for Seither in that last game, but the tanks just take down one medevac full of units before Azure can even get anything rolling, and all of these units just go straight up the ramp and absolutely demolish that attempt.
Yeah, I think maybe Azure was getting a little impatient with this push, or thought, you know, I got to do something right now, load up those medevacs, and then got punished for it by Seither, whose defenses were a lot more airtight than we thought there. He smacks it down and trades extremely well. And again, like as I suspected, that upgrade advantage for Seither looks like it's going to be pretty convincing, as 3-3 is just moments from finishing, and 3-3 takes a long time to finish too. So that means that's been researching for a long time for Seither. And Azure is going to be playing catch-up, so his Marines just not as powerful. Of course, it does. If you've got like 15 or so more Marines, then the upgrades don't really matter. But if it's similar work, a Marine count, or even a Marine advantage for Seither at any point, he really can just roll through and snowball in a lot of these Marine tank engagements. Oh, catches the Unsiege. Azure being very decisive here. Does get a couple of nice kills.
Gorgeous. 4 or 5 Vikings just going down in the blink of an eye. And that gives Azure a bit more confidence to start moving forward. The Vikings spawning out the edge of that tank line. You're seeing Azure starting to feel a bit more comfortable pressuring. At the moment, Seither getting that right side base established, but look at this move up towards the north side of the map. Azure, he's trying to go in from multiple prongs here. Seither, a similar idea for this man as well. This game definitely going to get awkward here.
Yeah, that 2 o'clock command center is in a ton of trouble as Azure just shows up with a bit of a hit squad. And it's just 2 tanks and a handful of Marines, but it's definitely enough to stop this base from happening. Seither doesn't want to have to split off resources to deal with that. Meanwhile, Azure's got similar problems. In fact, I would say an even bigger problem, as this is a giant ball of 3-3 Marines just pouncing on top of a largely undefended orbital, just 1 tank there, and that gets plucked from the skies. And I don't even think there's enough units from Azure to come home, and he's running in single file into a concave of Marines. He's losing not only the base, but a bunch of SCVs and units as well. A big move from Seither.
These 3-3 Marines just shred absolutely everything. That orbital went down in the blink of an eye, and that is a massive source of income that Azure cannot afford to lose right now. He's being forced to push back, can no longer keep Seither in that little box down towards that 4th base location. Instead has to move back towards his center side of the map, and he's got to reestablish his own 3rd base.
Seither lifts off the main here to try and take the 6 o'clock location, rotating his Marines up here at the north side of the map as well. Another advantage for Seither, we just talked about his upgrades on the Marines, but another advantage is that he's actually got a head start on mass Raven production. He's got Corvid Reactor on those Ravens, and they are popping out with plenty more energy here out of multiple starports with Tech Labs. And he's not stopping Viking production either. So he's going to have that late game army with a lot of spellcasters and Viking support with tanks, which is the ultimate end game army in TVT, whether it's usually against Biotank. That's a lot of the Korean Terrans are doing it. See them modeling his play as most people do after those giants of StarCraft 2. So this is going to be a tough army for Azure to deal with.
Let's see if he can give it a crack. At least he's started to even up the upgrade game as his +3 armor does finish up. So hasn't dropped the game before getting back on top of things. And after all said and done, I mean, at least if he could get some of these extra bases working for himself, then this game could start to even out a little bit. But let's see if these Ravens do make the difference. That is a lot of anti-armor missiles being hit.
Yeah, but the Ravens kind of got shredded by the Marines in the end there. They didn't cast too many spells, and anti-armor is all well and good if you've got units to capitalize on that and shoot them down with that extra armor debuff, but those tanks absolutely forced the lift there on that 6 o'clock, and that is so many tanks from Azure. His army is still so scary. Seither has more units than him, but he's splitting up his forces between the 4th base and also the 6 o'clock, where he's trying to keep the main base secured here. That Viking advantage, oh, that's so annoying. At least Azure has gotten a few of the Ravens, but he still has to deal with multiple Ravens here with 0 of his own and only 4 Vikings.
It's an awkward situation. Can't leverage this base here until he breaks the tank line, and he can use those air units to potentially do so, but with the Marine on the high ground providing a little bit of overwatch, a little bit of vision, that'll definitely help out. Seither grabbing himself a few libs out of the extra starports that you did mention will definitely help him out in terms of breaking this tank line, but Azure, he's going to opt to break the contain himself, and Seither again showing that he's the one who wants to move towards this air superiority in this late game army. He's going to drop himself that fusion core.
Yeah, because multiple Tech Lab starports can also mean multiple battlecruiser production in the ultra late game here in TVT. So there's Marines coming into a planetary. They might get this tank, but I don't think they're going to a whole lot more. Maybe some SCVs, because the tank is eventually going to clean them up. These Marines are actually getting a lot more done than I thought they would. Just microing out of tank range, and now they're just being very annoying.
Well, there you go. 2 more starports being added as well. There's a disable on that first tank towards the middle side. 5 tanks sieging up behind the rocks, though, is going to keep Seither zoned back for the time being. But really, Seither just trying to put some pressure on, maybe free up some supply, because his 2 extra starports do just finish up. So if he wants to start pumping battlecruisers, he definitely can.
But I actually like for Seither to break down these rocks as well and just open up a bit of a path, so if he does notice that Azure doesn't have a ton of buffer for those tanks, he can come in from a multiple angles and get a bit more of a surround and a bit of a fast concave there with those Marines. It's one of the power of the Bioforce in TVT is that it just turns into a concave so naturally, so quickly. And he's got the Liberators now, showing Azure that he can get that air advantage and use it to good effect. A lovely interference matrix on those tanks, getting this 3rd base locked open again. For Seither to once again get another pick off there. That's the main base lifted off for Azure. That means no more mining, and that's so hard for Azure to replenish. He's spent all of his money. Meanwhile, Seither is floating tons of cash right now on 148 supply. Seither, press a production hotkey. There we go. It's making Marines and tanks right now.
Yeah, dropping again Marines up in towards the main base. Not that many of them. And you see Azure, he's sieging over towards his own 3rd from that upper ridge towards the middle side of the map. He drops the Vikings down, and he's going to be able to clean up the majority of those tanks. A couple of those add-ons being taken out, so that might hinder the Marine production for a little bit. Well, after all said and done, I mean, Seither, like you said, he's got this massive bank. He wasn't necessarily using it, but now this is where he's chucking a couple BCs in the mix. He's keeping himself safe back at home, and he has these extra bases. I mean, that 3rd base is not really doing too much from Azure right now. He's got the 2s on the left side, which will definitely help him out. But Azure staying active. He's got a hell of a lot of tanks, and he wants to try to make use of them.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that the only advantage that Azure has right now is that he has 7 more tanks, and that's fantastic until the BCs come in. Then the tanks might as well not exist. And that is the game plan here for Seither. He just needs to survive till then. Don't let these tanks be in range of this planetary. Don't lose too many of your own ground forces in the meantime. Lockdowns on 4 of those tanks, taking them out of the fight. Letting Seither's tanks get some free pickoffs. A lot more where that came from for Azure, obviously. But these BCs are just seconds from popping. And if they tactical yump into this situation, Azure's going to have to leave with his tail between his legs. In fact, he's leaving already, even without the BCs.
Well, he just doesn't have the vision. Doesn't matter if he has the extra tanks. They just cannot get a clean shot off onto Seither's own line. So he can't make use of them. And that is it. You see all of those BCs pop out. He's starting to research the Yamato as well, which will definitely provide him some more value. Azure looking to shift around towards this side now and try to get some damage done towards his south side base.
Azure coming in again, but in those BCs, they tactical jump into the situation, and Marines barely tickle them here as they just A-move through and pew-pew down everything there for Azure. And unfortunately, so close but so